Ankita.
And this is Nalini.
And you're tuned in to The Prickly Peers, the podcast where we celebrate uninhibited brown women and their prickly points of view. I am so excited today to be joined by Paromita Bardolai. I have not spoken to Paromita before today. But Nalini very sneakily had this conversation with Paromita already. And I have to say, and I've said this before we started recording, I'm going to say this again once we hit record, Nalini is hard to impress. But Paromita did the impossible. One conversation, Nalini had like 14 messages coming one after the other saying, we have to get her. She's like the best thing ever. You just have to talk to her. And I'm like, hold on, we're not recording tomorrow. Give me some time to find out who this person is. And she's like, no, just trust me. Like, we just have to get her. Paromita, I am very curious and equally excited because her excitement has caught on. But Nalini, can you share a little bit about Paromita before we hand it off to her?
I'm sure I will not do justice. Just to kick off the conversation, Paromita wears many hats, but in her own words, she's a writer first. And if left to her, her dream is to be a letter writer for a living, for passion, for fun. Other than that, Paromita is a professional healer. She works with different artisans in Assam as part of the Wiki Foundation, right, which is the Women in Chamber of Commerce Foundation in India. She also has published many books. I'm so sad that I cannot read her book that she's recently published for women, Notes for Women, but I hope we can get it here in Dublin sometime soon, and we'll talk about the book in a bit anyway. Paromita, I cannot control my excitement, obviously, today in talking to you. So hopefully Ankita can ask better questions than me because I just want to keep listening to you after our first conversation. So welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Since our episode and our season is about what your mother said, maybe we kick off with you telling us what your mother said and we go from there.
Thank you so much. So it's lovely to talk to women. I love talking to women. And lovely that we are talking about mothers today because mothers are the first gender as a woman we see. And whether we like it or not, we start, imitating her. It doesn't matter what your mother said. What matters is that how she was. We model ourselves according to her, right? What are we told in our childhood defines our adulthood. So if I go back, the first thing I remember is like the need to be that perfect girl. The way you talk, the way you have a conversation. If someone is saying, "Thoda chup ho jao," it's okay. Padke dikha dena. The need to prove yourself as a woman. You have to not only good in studies, खाना भी आपको अच्छा बनाना होता है, सुंदर भी आपको दिखना होता है. So that constant need for the mothers to create the perfect package for their daughters. And I was born in the 80s, but grown up in the 90s, you see. That was a very different India than what it is now. Mothers at that point in time were like the traumas that we went through, our daughters should not. So jo perfection ka jo package hua hai, then you realize that maybe what mother told was not, everything was not perfect. Maybe there's a different way to deal with life. Basically, women are givers. Koi kuch de to pehle aap na boliye. खाना भी कोई दे नहीं बच्चों को पहले दे दीजिए बड़े कोई मैं औरतें तो कम खाती हूँ मैं बस एक रोटी से ही हो जाएगा so we are used to taking so less. How is that a woman who's just has so less for herself give the best to their children? It is not possible otherwise. When we go out to the world and we start dancing the same dance that we were taught, but then you realize there are follies in the dance, and that is when your journey begins. That how is that I become something that I don't repeat the mistake that I was taught? And that has been my whole journey for the 38 years. And if I look back now, all the work that I have done is basically telling everyone, don't make the mistakes we did. Put yourself first. All the books that I have studied and the literature, I have a student of literature. And that has been my journey to become the first person in my life. At 38 now I am. You have to break so much, but to break that mental barrier and practicing it every day, that's what takes. your आपको अपनी जो रीढ़ की हड्डी होती है, your backbone, you have to break it and build it by bit, and that is why when you become a new person. Renaissance woman की जो बात होती है, Renaissance man की जो बात होती है, you bloody make that pilgrimage. And that is not easy, my friend. You break your backbone one by one, and then you build it one by one. It is a journey itself.
Paromita, tell me one thing. So you said how our parents, when they instill something in us in childhood, we grow up imitating, mimicking, and then eventually there has to be a point where you realize that that's not the same thing that I want to repeat in my life, and then you break out of it. Where did that moment come for you, or all the people that you work with as a healer? How does one realize that there's many people that go on in life without realizing that this is happening, that they're mimicking their parents?
There's never one moment. There are many moments, and that leads to the breakdown. ऐसा नहीं होता है ना कि one day I just give you one slap, you can take it, right? Let me pick you every day. One day you will break down. So there would be many moments. I did not understand self-love. I did not know how to receive. My biggest problem was because I saw my mother being a giver. She was a very young woman at 22. She was married to a joint family. And sabka khayal rakhna. Having birth at 23, she gave birth to the first child. And we all came one year after another. And all we have seen her is taking care of everyone. She was also a professor in a college. But everything was about people. The first time I realized that something was wrong and I needed to move. I was in college, 19 or 20. And I liked a guy. I was trying to be the savior. It didn't work out, whatever reason it is. And it broke me so badly. And that is when I realized that, hey, kuch to galat hai isme. Itna breakdown jo ho raha hai. There's no self-love and your health is deteriorating and you are not feeling good about yourself. And the universe supports you. I met this friend of mine and she was reading this book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. That is the Bible of self-love. I read it for the first time. Then I made that journey that, I have to love myself. And of course, then there has been so much reading happening. There has been therapy happening. And now that I have grown up, I have my coaches because I coach people, someone coaches me, and it's a journey. And that was one thing that didn't work out with that person. That was where, my pilgrimage started. So I'll tell you what, and that is, I have hundreds of conversations with women of my age, or maybe also younger. We were all raising in the 90s where India suddenly opened up to globalization. We had the dream of Sushmita Sen and Aishwarya Rai. Suddenly, TV में आना शुरू हो गया, cable TV आ गया. So there is a social political evolution that was happening in India. 91 में that Manmohan Singh passed that globalization. India को open कर दिया गया. We saw Shah Rukh Khan on the screen. India was changing. अगर आप पढ़े, change of India का जो curve change हुआ है. And suddenly, parents realized that our daughters could be something. जो policies change हुए हैं, more women's education के लिए, government has started pushing it. The serials शुरू हो गए, where women became the protagonist. And all that, Shining India का campaign आया है. End of 2000, 2001. So what our mothers went through in the 70s when they were growing up, and they got married in the 80s, really young, 21, 22, they got married. They also realized the only thing our daughters will not suffer what we did is through education. आप तब social ladder climb कर सकती हैं. So all they did was that they study hard. हमको बोलते हैं ना, नहीं पढ़ोगे तो बर्तन धोना पड़ेगा, because they have done that. They've seen their mothers doing that. My grandmother, she was 8 years old, and my grandfather was 25 years old. My nana and nani, and they were married off. And she told me one day, I'm so glad that you girls study. तुम लोग ना, when men say you something, you can answer back. Man can't fool you because you know what they are talking. I was 8 and I was in school. They beat me up and got me married. And I had to do all the house labor. Basically, women were married for the sexual and the physical labor that they provided, right? That is how patriarchy works. That is the feudal system. And she told me, now if there's lying to you, because you have studied it. And I'm so happy for her. Can you imagine the trauma generations of women have got? You and I can sit here and have this conversation. We are sitting on the shoulders of women we don't even know their name. They pushed us to here, and very grateful for all of them. Generations of women out there doing it for us. So I take my empowerment very, very seriously.
And whatever we might say about the mothers, you're right, right? Like they have been trying to get their daughters or their children out of what they suffered. And their mothers did the same. But time is changing so fast that it's never enough. It's never enough what they can do or whatever they can tell us.
Because पता ही नहीं था. They didn't have television in the 70s. 80s में घर में television आना शुरू हुआ था. 90s में computers आ गए. Then they realized कि government job के अलावा भी jobs है. Because all these multinationals were coming into India then. So उनको लगा कि बेटियों का पैसा अगर आएगा ना, कोई मारेगा नहीं इनको. You should understand psychology. कि my daughter will be safe. The only reason they need to be safe is our education. And I feel so sad for so many women, Such brilliant women. They couldn't do anything because of the social structure. But all they did was put all their energies on their children. And there are things they didn't do right. Yes, I agree on that. But what else they didn't knew at the age of 21, 22? What else? What did you and I knew at 21, 22? They're raising children, cooking and going to work. It's not easy for them. And understanding this brought me a lot of empathy and forgiveness for your own parents. Which is one journey I think everyone has to make, because it is the hardest journey to forgive people who are supposed to love you and give you everything and they made mistakes. That is one journey. It's a very tough journey. But once you make this, there's so much of empathy and tears you will have for them. आता ही तो कुछ नहीं था ना. What resources they had as women to understand about self-love that they could teach their daughters at 21. Sometimes, which I do now, no and shut up, are such wise words to utter from this mouth. And maybe we are the first generation doing it. No, and please shut up.
And definitely of women, like first generation of women to do this, to draw boundaries, right? Like we were never taught that boundaries are a thing.
Because woman का वही है ना, you are assessed on the labor that you give. कौन तुम घर पे 4 बहुएं हैं, कौन कितना बर्तन धो रहा है, कौन कितना वो कर. That is how your self-worth was given. Self-worth तुम्हारा होने से self-worth नहीं है. तुम कितना labor produce कर रहे हो, how many male child you have given birth to. That is your worth. So they had no idea कि they are like they have to keep pleasing the mother-in-law, right? So उसमें boundaries कहाँ आती है, जिसकी कोई boundary नहीं, जो मर चुकी है काम कर करके, people would appreciate her. We are reversing a whole generational trauma, so we need to be kind to ourselves. But I have built my boundaries quite well, because sometimes I just say, shut up, no. Someone asked me that day, I've written this novel for 50 pages, can you read it? I just said no. I didn't say anything. I said no, I don't want to read it. You want to talk to me? No. Because I want to protect myself first. And when I heal myself, 7 generations before me, 7 generations after me will heal. Because I have processed trauma, right? I have processed it. I become the wall. And from me, the next healed generation come. And that is why I believe boundaries are very important. So I'm a very no-nonsense woman. No matter how kind I am, you can't mess up with me.
And which is like from your Twitter, it is just, I admire you for calling those people out that send you messages like anti-feminist messages and stuff. Like it is amazing how you can be kind and give a shut up call at the same time in 2 sentences. Like
and you just have to. And this is how you learn through. It hasn't come in a day. And I always tell young women, I meet so many of them. It is a process, and we are all going to. Don't beat yourself at 22. Okay, she could do it, and I was like, oh, मैं शर्मा गई. Because every time on Twitter or men confront men, they will give arguments. When men confront women, चुप कर रंडी, that is what they say. That is the only line they say. But I am not ashamed of that thing. Calling me that, that's fine. You call me names, great. Now let's get back to the argument. You'll shame my parents? I don't need shame, because generations of women have been destroyed because they gave us so much of shame, right? तुम तो अच्छी हो ही नहीं. तुम्हारे माँ बाप ने अच्छे संस्कार दिए. No, all is fine. Now let's talk. Sit on the table and talk with me. And that is why 99.9% don't come. You cannot shame me, darling, so please sit down. So that's how I take my life every day. Even as a healer, right? I work with 1,000 clients, of course. You have to have your boundaries. If कोई भी आपको 2 बजे मैसेज करके मन अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, I don't respond. I said, this is the time I respond. आपका काम हो गया, let me know. And people know. People always know how to deal with anyone. लोग कहते हैं ना, उसको पता ही नहीं था, इसीलिए he have hurt me. He knows you are someone who will take his shit, and therefore he's giving you shit. Now just shut up. You can't give me shit.
I'm going to draw on your journey as a healer a little bit. And you talked about generations a little bit. So you talked about, our parents' generations and then them raising. So I'm guessing in the 90s, at least me and my peers, like all of us who grew up between that era and now, we were built to be racehorses because obviously our mom thought, do more, you'll achieve more, you'll build your own life, you'll have this complete sort of freedom. So maybe we'll call it the racehorse generation, right?
Sandwich generation, sandwich.
Yes, we'll call it racehorse or sandwich generation, even better. Do you see that changing? Like a lot of people of our generation now are becoming mothers. Do you think we've healed enough to pass on the right message, or are we grooming yet another racehorse or sandwich? I don't think the next generation will be sandwich, but are we grooming another racehorse generation?
Things are changing because इतनी awareness बढ़ रही है. Self love करो, ये करो, वो करो. No one can be ever be 100% healed. वो तो आप भगवान बन जाओगे. Normally everyone has to be 70% healed, 30% तो रहेगा because you are human. But we are still a very toxic society. Gender, race, caste, that was still a lot. IIT में पढ़ना है, सबको कोडिंग में डालना है, and they are putting. I have 6 months old. They are taking for some kind of trainings, right? 6 months kids they are putting, and they are like super kids they are making. So I don't know what that 6 months is learning to be a super kid, and what if he's not a super kid? He's a very mediocre in his studies. So I don't know how the impact is going to be. Awareness है. प्रोडक्ट तो मैंने देखा नहीं है अभी. It will take me 10-15 years to see the product. But the best part is that this generation of women is evolving. They are learning and they are accepting that they have more shit and they are taking help. Men have still not reached there. Women have evolved much more because our traumas have been more. And that is how they are even calling out a lot of men. But this generation of women is healing. And the next generation, जो हमसे 10 साल छोटे हैं, 2000 में born हुए हैं, those are people who are in a better place because our generation have pushed the envelope a little more, and they don't take shit, like they don't take toxic bosses, they leave their jobs. You know how it is happening. They leave their jobs, they talk about mental health. So चीजें change हो रही है. I think there is like 30%. But final product क्या निकलेगा अभी 15-20 साल में पता चलेगा. So have we broken free completely? I don't think so. It always need 3 generations to make one. हम पहले हैं और 2 चाहिए होगा हमारे बाद में. That is what I feel.
I think this has given us so much food for thought because what you're saying, I'm sure our listeners and both of us there are so many stories from childhood coming back to life. Like, at least in my mind, everything that you just said, parents never told us whether you look pretty or ugly or whatever. Like, I remember that till the time I was 10 or 12 years old, I had no idea that I was even faintly attractive. Like, I actually thought I'm the worst looking person out there trying to hide my face. I would not show my face in pictures. I have like so many photos of my childhood where I'm sitting like this because I just thought that I'm not beautiful or I don't look good because no one told me. And like, it took one event where I was visiting my grandmother in Patna in Bihar, where my uncles and aunts were talking in a different room that have you seen Muni's daughter? My mom is called Muni at home, and she's growing up to be so pretty. And that was the first time I don't remember if I was 10 or 12, like there was a realization, oh my God, people can actually find me pretty, which totally changed there were Aishwarya Rais and Shushmita Sen's like all out there, but I didn't think I could be anything like. And that was even a small child can have these deep thoughts somewhere hidden, which, now I think back, and this is the first time I'm thinking about it after 20 years or so, that who knows what impact it had.
Children absorb everything. When you don't feel good about yourself, मैं तो खूबसूरत हूँ ही नहीं. So if someone has not treated me well, it is okay. We go for the lowest hanging fruit when we don't feel good about ourselves. So when I ask women when they come for sessions, I said, okay, you married him. Red flag तो पहले ऐसा तो नहीं है ना, अभी 10 साल बाद पता चला है. So शादी, you are dating this guy for 4 years. So the red flags तो तब भी होंगे, every things don't break in one day. So they say that मैं तो ऐसे ordinary थी, वो तो IIT का था, तो मैंने मान लिया, ठीक है. ये जो ठीक है वाला कल्चर है ना, we don't stop at the first lap. And that is why we have reached a place where men are killing women and chopping our bodies and putting it into suitcases and freezers. It's not funny anymore. Memes बना रहे हैं, hello, I mean, zero empathy. Religion देखा जा रहा है, but चीजें आई कहाँ से है?
I mean, लोग सामने देख के on the road, if they're seeing a woman being killed and not saying anything, like how can we even imagine that they would go back in history?
Just imagine that some purpose, there was this girl and a boy, they were holding hands in the metro and they had this, they just DMR से वो metro के उसको वो किया गया, put a picture and he just tagged the metro police and everything. We are so anti-love as a country, right? It's so wrong to love. We will call all the agencies when someone is loving or kissing, but when someone is killed, ये तो घर का मामला हो गया. Violence is okay. Love is so wrong, right? So maybe love has left us, and therefore we are where we are right now. Look at the violence that has happened with all the laws and with all the police. Nothing has stopped, right? So love has left us, I believe.
How do we bring it back? That's the question. Like being prickly, I'm just coming back to, what we want our listeners to imbibe, or like the community that we are trying to build with Prickly Peers is actually say the thing that no one's saying, and then things will change, right? Like you are the first person, as you
and
said.
You know what? Every relationship is in your world is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. I hate myself so much. No one loved me. And there I see two people happy in love. मैं तो मारने के लिए जाऊंगी ना. Until and unless I am okay with myself and I love myself. मुझे सच में फर्क नहीं पड़ता that there are 10 couples in front of me. जो खुद में नहीं है ना, वो प्रोजेक्ट करते हैं. जो theory of projection की बात है. When I have so much of hate and I see that Nalini is having better and I am a part of a lynch crowd, I will be the first one to throw a stone at you. That is what hatred does to me. Hatred at the end of the day, stays so strongly that I find someone who is weaker than me and I'll kill that person. You don't kill in the name of God, you heal in the name. और ये जो हमारी ट्रॉमास बढ़ के हो रही है, that is what we show off. मतलब प्यार क्या थप्पड़ मार दो और ऑनर किलिंग में people are just being so happy कि कोई बात नहीं, मेरे बेटे ने मार दिया बेटी को, and they are happy about it. What are we celebrating? हमारी कल्चरल सेलिब्रेशंस आप देख लो, क्या क्या सेलिब्रेट किया जा रहा है. अपनी ही जात में शादी कर. There's a pride. हमारे 5 बेटे अपनी जात में किए हैं. हमारी वो बहू घर से निकलती नहीं है. That is our pride. तुम किसी के फ्रीडम को रेस्ट्रिक्ट करके प्राइड कर रहे हो. So we have a long way to go, but I'm glad that few people are understanding. And चिंगारी से आग लगती है. So one and then the other and then the other. But woman has evolved much better than man. That's what I really see around. Until and unless I accept myself, I will always hate you, isn't it? तुम्हें मिला मुझे नहीं मिला. That is the whole thing. Na? The world is divided into 2 parts, a friend told me. The haves and the have-nots. मुझे तो मिला नहीं ना प्यार, पति से मिला नहीं ना. तो I see a young woman being happy with a man. मैं तो पूरे मोहल्ले को बुलाऊंगी ना, इसको मारो. Can you see psychology कैसे काम करती है? That is how we have to love ourselves. And when I love myself, I can love you, isn't it? It's very simple theory, but it's just going haywire.
Paromita, I'm going to summarize one takeaway that I've heard from you very loud and clear, and that was that loving ourselves and forgiving ourselves, because that allows us to create a better future generation. Do you have tips and tricks for our listeners on how they can embark on that journey? Because it isn't easy. Like it's easier to say, oh, you should love yourself, heal yourself and all of that, but it isn't. How would you help our listeners?
Yes, that's a great question. आपके पास जितना भी डिग्री हो जाए, आपके पास जितना भी, even for man it is true, how hard it is to be with yourself when you just don't accept yourself. You're constantly trying to find something. आपके colleague के साथ आप इधर competition कर लोगे, or you will be going to people who don't love you and you want their love as a trophy. That when you love me enough, I am good enough. When you don't feel good enough about yourself, सब चीज धड़ा का धड़ा रह जाता है. जितना भी आप अर्न कर लो और जितना भी आपको अवार्ड्स मिल जाए, until and unless I am good enough, ये जो good enough का इशू है, 90% of people don't feel good enough about themselves, and from there where all violence comes, right? I violate myself so much. इतनी गालियाँ देती हूँ खुद को. सुबह उठ के I meet you and I will say the worst thing, वो जो आपका निकलता है ना अंदर से. So how to love ourselves is a very good question. I will request if people read these books. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. She's the mother of self-love. Basically, you keep repeating how much I love myself, and there is like how you forgive your parents. Wake up in the morning, look into the mirror and just say I love you. बहुत सारे triggers traumas निकलते हैं. People have smashed mirrors also because so much comes up. Keep doing it, keep doing it. You reach in a better space in life. However, trauma बहुत लोगों का अलग होता है. Some people might need therapy. Some people need medication. Some people need years and years of counseling. So at the end of the day, you have to make that choice for yourself, what you can do. But also, therapy is not very inexpensive. The best of doctors takes a lot of money. So, we don't have a public health thing that, offers mental health for free or very nominal. But all I would say is that, start with that book. Please earn your money and pay for the therapy. End it with you. The trauma that have come from maybe 7th generation, 8th generation. End it in your blood. Give that gift to your great grandchildren that someone did the work and I'm free today. Freedom is the greatest gift we can give you. So today, both of you, I'm giving you the gift of freedom because I love you so much. All my love.
Thank you. And I think you're beautiful.
Oh yes, we all are beautiful. We all are beautiful. We all are. And women should always tell women how beautiful they are, because also my woman friend keep telling me, you're beautiful, wear this dress, wear that dress. And we have to free ourselves. We have to stop waiting for men to free ourselves, because they themselves are broken. There are no prince and white horse coming, darling. It was a fable, and this is real life. You are the prince, you are the horse. Bloody learn to take the sword and learn to wield your sword and win your battle. Someone joins you, great. Someone doesn't. Feel this is a beautiful life because you had embarked this journey. Honor your life, honor the moments, your suffering, your trauma, happiness, your glory, your body. Life will give you so much back. Trust me on that.
Thank you so much, Paromita. I am not often left speechless, but I'm a little speechless right now. So, Nalini, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up for us today.
There's so much I learned that, again, I'm again becoming a bigger fangirl of you than I was before. I think what you said about female friendship is the best point to end our episode today, that the reason we started the podcast, the reason why we are talking to you and people like you on this journey is to re-emphasize the fact that our the prickly pears came from us being peers and us being bouncing ideas off each other, telling each other how great you are, you don't need to suffer, you don't need to, just helping each other through a lot of things together. I think women can do so much if they have companionship of the same gender, which is what came out of what you just said in the end. I think we will end our episode today here.
One thing I want to tell all women, one thing, suffering is not a virtue. It's not a measure of your worthiness. Suffering is not a virtue. It is only telling you something is not right.
Yeah, and it's time for a change. It's time to get that prickly in you out to say something, do something about it, right? No one's going to come on a white horse. You are your own prince. You're your own white horse. Thank you so much, Paromita.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Lovely talking to you.
So on behalf of Prickly Pears, I'm still going to end with my tagline, we are out.